Australia looks like paradise. Blue oceans, warm weather, friendly people. A dream escape for many Americans, but the truth? Most Americans don't struggle with Australia because it's dangerous, but because it's different. Very different, and sometimes the smallest daily habits can hit the hardest. Today on Global Pulse, we explore why so many Americans love Australia, but still find it one of the hardest places to adjust to. In America, life moves fast, really fast. People race to work before sunrise, grab lunch in less than 10 minutes, answer emails at dinner, and collapse into bed past midnight. It's a cycle of rush, rush, rush every single day. But in Australia, life slows. Not a little, a lot. Shops close earlier than most Americans expect. Cafes take their time preparing food because they don't rush quality. And when the weekend arrives, the entire country seems to switch into relax mode. Saturday mornings feel calm. Sundays feel peaceful and quiet. Families gather at parks, beaches, and backyards instead of rushing through chores. People take long walks, long lunch breaks, and yes, long weekends. To Australians, this isn't strange. This is normal life, this is balance. But to many Americans, it feels almost unreal, like the whole country is living in a constant vacation mode. Imagine an American trying to buy groceries at 9 p.m. The store might be closed. Try scheduling a haircut on a Sunday? Good luck. Need a plumber instantly at night? Not happening, unless it's an emergency. Even the work culture is slower and calmer. Meetings don't drag all day. Workers leave the office at a reasonable time. And nobody expects you to sacrifice your personal life for your job. At first, this quiet, slowed-down rhythm drives Americans crazy. It feels too slow, too calm, too relaxed. But over time, something surprising happens. They begin to enjoy it. They sleep better. They spend more time outside. They start to feel human again. And eventually, they learn what Australians have known all along. Life is meant to be lived with balance, not burnout. If there's one shock Americans feel the moment they land in Australia, it's the prices. Groceries, expensive. Rent, even more expensive. Eating out, sometimes shockingly expensive. An American might walk into a simple cafe expecting a cheap breakfast, but then they see the menu. $6 for a small coffee, $18-22 for a basic burger, $8-10 for a loaf of bread, $3 for a single apple. The first reaction is always the same. Wait, is this normal? And the answer is yes. In Australia, this is normal. For Americans, it feels like everything costs double. They start converting prices back into US dollars in their head, and the math only makes it worse. Why is it so expensive? Because Australia chooses quality over cheapness. Farmers are paid fairly, workers earn high wages, imported items travel long distances, and small businesses don't cut corners just to make things cheaper. Even fast food is pricier than in America. But the ingredients are fresher, cleaner, and held to higher standards. Then comes rent. In big cities like Sydney or Melbourne, the housing market hits Americans with another surprise. A small apartment can cost as much as a large home in the US. And when Americans try to compare, this would be half the price back home. Australians simply shrug. To them, this is the cost of living in a safe, clean, high-standard country with strong wages and benefits. The interesting part? Even though the prices feel high, Australians aren't shocked at all. Their salaries match the cost of living. Their healthcare doesn't drain their bank accounts. Their work weeks aren't 60 hours long. So while Americans feel the financial pain at first, they slowly start to see the bigger picture. Australia is expensive because life here is built to be better, healthier, and more balanced. It just takes time for Americans to adjust, and time for their wallets to recover. Americans have heard all the jokes about Australia's wildlife. The giant spiders, the snakes, the sharks. The strange animals that don't exist anywhere else in the world. It's funny until they get there. When an American actually moves to Australia, they discover something quickly. The wildlife is no joke, and it's everywhere. You might walk into a house and see a spider the size of your hand sitting calmly on the wall. Australians just say, "Oh, that's a huntsman." Don't worry, mate, harmless. But to an American, that's a full emergency. You could be driving home and suddenly a kangaroo jumps across the road like a bouncing deer. Where Americans worry about raccoons or possums, Australians worry about kangaroos crashing into cars. Backyards, beautiful until you see a snake sunbathing near the fence. Sometimes they hide in sheds, gardens, or even under front door mats. Even birds are wild in Australia. Magpies swoop at people during breeding season. Cockatoos scream so loud they wake people up before sunrise. And kookaburras laugh like they're mocking you from the trees. For Australians, this is normal life. They grow up knowing which animals to avoid, which ones are harmless, and how to stay calm around creatures that would send most Americans running. But for Americans, it's overwhelming. They're used to squirrels, pigeons, maybe the occasional bear or snake. But Australia? Australia gives them wildlife that looks like it came from a nature documentary. And the most surprising part? Australians don't panic. They respect nature. They know how to live with it, not against it. So while Americans clutch their chest every time they see a spider on the ceiling, Australians grab a broom, calmly guide it outside, and go back to eating dinner like nothing happened. It's one of the biggest culture shocks Americans face, not because Australia is dangerous, but because Australians are incredibly comfortable with the wild side of their country. And it takes Americans months to learn that same calm. For many Americans, the biggest surprise in Australia isn't the animals. It's the way people talk. On the surface, both countries speak English, but the style, tone, and attitude behind Australian communication can feel completely different from what Americans are used to. In the US, people often speak clearly and directly. They show enthusiasm. They say exactly what they mean, sometimes with lots of energy. But Australians, calm, laid back, dry humor for days. They use a lot of sarcasm, a lot of casual phrases, and sometimes a joke sounds so serious that an American will stand there confused, thinking, wait, were they being rude or just funny? Australians also love to shorten words in ways that make Americans pause. Breakfast becomes brekkie. Sunglasses becomes sunnies. McDonald's becomes Macca's. Even the way Australians give compliments is different. Instead of saying, you're amazing, they'll say something like, not bad, which actually means that was really good. And when they call a friend an idiot, that usually means they like you a lot. Then there's the honesty. Australians don't sugarcoat things. They say what they think, but in a relaxed, almost friendly way. An American might think, wow, that was blunt. But an Australian simply sees it as being real. And while Americans may take time to warm up to strangers, Australians become casual and friendly almost instantly. A quick chat can turn into a long conversation. A small laugh can turn into a friendship. To Americans, this easygoing honesty feels unusual at first. They might misread a joke or think someone is being rude when they're actually just teasing. They might think someone is angry when they're actually just being direct. But over time, they realize something powerful. Australians communicate in a way that is simple, relaxed, and true to who they are. It's a style built on humor, humility, and closeness. And once Americans understand the rhythm of it, they start to enjoy it, and even pick up a bit of Aussie slang themselves. When Americans picture Australia, they imagine sunshine, beaches, and warm weather all year round. And yes, Australia has plenty of sunshine, but what many Americans don't expect is how extreme the weather can be. Australia doesn't just get hot, it gets seriously hot. Heat so strong it feels like opening an oven door every time you step outside. Some areas hit 40 degrees C, that's over 104 degrees during summer. Roads soften, car steering wheels burn your hands. Even metal playground slides become too hot to touch. Americans who are used to mild summers suddenly find themselves sweating before breakfast. Then there are the bushfires. Heat, dry air, and strong winds can turn small flames into massive fires that spread quickly. Australians grow up learning fire warnings like Americans learned snow warnings. In other parts of Australia, it's the opposite. Months without rain, dry land, water limits, brown lawns that crack under the sun. And just when Americans think they've figured out the climate, Australia surprises them again. Some places get flash floods, others get hail the size of golf balls. In northern Australia, powerful tropical storms can roll in out of nowhere, and the temperature changes fast. Americans joke that they can experience 4 seasons in a day in some US states, but in Australia, that joke becomes real. A calm morning can turn into brutal heat. A hot afternoon can turn into heavy rain. Then, an hour later, the sky clears as if nothing happened. Australians handle all this with surprising ease. They know how to stay safe in the heat. They watch weather warnings like second nature. They dress for sudden changes. They understand their environment deeply. But for Americans, the adjustment is tough. Some bring winter coats but barely use them. Others underestimate the sun and get sunburned within minutes. Many can't handle how early daylight starts or how intense it feels. Eventually, though, they learn a new respect for the sun, for the land, and for the way Australians adapt to extreme conditions with patience and humor. Australia may look like paradise, but it's a paradise that demands you pay attention. For many Americans, one of the biggest surprises about Australia isn't the animals or the prices, or even the heat. It's the way Australians treat work. In the United States, work can feel like a race. Long hours, late nights, emails at all hours of the day, people constantly chasing promotions, bonuses, and bigger responsibilities. But in Australia, the mindset is completely different. Australians believe in working to live, not living to work. Most people finish their jobs at a reasonable hour, and once they walk out the door, work stays at work. Weekends are sacred, public holidays are respected. Vacation time is taken seriously, not something to feel guilty about. If an American tries to stay late at the office, an Australian coworker might actually say, "Mate, what are you still doing here? Go enjoy your day." Instead of bragging about being busy, Australians brag about going to the beach, visiting family, or taking a road trip. Restaurants fill up on weeknights because people don't want work to control their lives. Parks stay active with runners, families, and dog walkers. Cafes are full of people enjoying life, not rushing through it. Even bosses understand balance. Employees are encouraged to rest, recharge, and protect their mental health. To Americans, this feels almost unbelievable at first. They're used to a non-stop work culture where stress is normal, and rest feels like a reward instead of a right. But Australia teaches them something different. A lesson many didn't even realize they were missing. Life has value outside of work. Joy matters, free time matters, happiness matters. And as Americans settle in, they start noticing changes in themselves. They smile more, they sleep better, they feel more present, more balanced, more alive. Australia doesn't just change how people work, it changes how people live. So why do many Americans struggle in Australia? Because it challenges their habits and their speed, their expectations, their comfort zone. Australia is paradise, but not an easy paradise. It is slow, sunny, expensive, wild, sarcastic, peaceful, and deeply human. And that's what makes it unforgettable. This is Global Pulse, bringing you closer to cultures around the world, one real-life story at a time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and explore more with us.